forget what we fought for 100 years. With blood, sweat, broken bones, death, and tears, they call us radicals.
This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek. And one of the issues that we have covered previously is the question of AI, artificial intelligence, robotics, and what this means for the working class. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been invested by billionaires and others to develop AI. And a lot of the purpose of that development is for elimination of labor costs in healthcare, in trucking, in education, many, many other areas. And joining us today is John Palmer. He's an international vice president of the Teamsters Union, and he recently introduced a resolution around the issue of AI and how it was affecting UPS and other Teamsters who work in logistics. Welcome to our show, John.
Good to see you, Steve.
So, John, first of all, why don't you talk about what you think AI is, whether it's a threat to the Teamsters and other workers, and what it means for working people?
I think, obviously we've seen over the years, the centuries, actually, if you look at things historically, technology always moves on and challenges people in the workplace. I think as we enter this, this new age, we're entering something that like nothing we've ever seen before. It's I think because of the type of labor that we do with our warehousing and transportation distribution, we're certainly going to be amongst the first to really have to deal with the impacts of AI, AGI, and automation. So I don't think we could sleep on this. I think we really have to dedicate our resources to taking a very forward-looking approach to this and consider the long term. How do we deal with it? How's it going to impact our workforce? And I think what we overlook sometimes is how are we going to communicate this to our workforce so that they understand and that they're prepared for what may come at them. And we want to mitigate it as much as we can, I think. And our job's to try to protect our membership.
And there have been some recent strikes, the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild, over the issue of AI. They've been taking the voices of actors and actresses. They're developing video without the actors. They're using, through AI, capturing works, writings of writers, and then using it in artificial intelligence. These unions, when they went on strike, said it was an existential threat to the existence of their members. Also, your union, the Teamsters, and members in Los Angeles are having negotiations where AI might be used to get rid of your members. So this issue is affecting a lot of workers all over the country. You feel that the union should be proactive as far as educating members about AI. What do you propose that your union do? Because some unions have had conferences of their leadership, but there's been no kind of public debate, discussion in the labor movement as a whole, not just the Teamsters Union, but the AFL-CIO, about the effect of AI and educating and preparing workers for what is coming. Because Goldman Sachs has, in a report, said 350 million workers globally could lose their jobs, and obviously many of them are in logistics, longshore, Teamsters, people who move products.
Yeah, I think we're on the sort of initial front. The manual labor is probably at the the biggest risk with automation, but the AI and artificially generated intelligence are frontiers that are they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination right now, but they are certainly well on their way to doing tasks that most of us never dreamed of, humans being replaced by. So it is global. We're at the front of the impact. We're seeing it already at UPS, in our grocery warehouses. Our freight carriers are moving towards less and less handling of the materials. So the Teamsters have 1.26 million members roughly. And we have resources, the building in Washington, D.C. is staffed with the research department and communications department and a political and legislative department. All those things have to be put to task and to use to have a long-term plan. I think I was watching a newscast this morning where they were talking about the accuracy of AI, and I think some of it was as bad as almost 40% wrong. Now, I think the one that was most accurate was about 70% correct most of the time. But this is progressing by leaps and bounds. We've all had to talk to a computer online or AI communications. They're going to perfect this, and they're going to start replacing people that do things right now that never dreamt that they were going to be replaced. It's going to go beyond the realm of robots and scanners moving materials. It's going to go into, like, well, you mentioned it, the Screen Actors Guild. People, if you're a writer, they're trying, they're going to try to compose things without human beings. So, I mean, this is going to be a huge question as far as where we're going as a society. I mean, what happens if we replace, half the workforce? Well, what are we going to do with people? How are they going to contribute to the economy? How, it's a very, very, if we had a perfect world, I'd have an answer. We'd get a guaranteed income, and people would live much better lives. But that's not the goal of corporations and the wealthy.
And of course, last night in San Francisco, there was a benefit dinner for Donald Trump. These tech billionaires, many of them were there, tech entrepreneurs at the house of David Sachs, Larry Ellison, Elon Musk. Many of these billionaires, including J.R. Vance, attended, I understand, this dinner. And they've said, the Trump administration, that they're not going to regulate it. They're going to let it rip, basically, wild, wild west. And that's one of the reasons they're supporting Trump. Now, you had a situation at UPS where, following the contract, thousands of workers were laid off. And apparently UPS has said they have plans to lay off 100,000 workers and replace them with robotics and automation. Are you concerned about the future of unionized labor at UPS? Because that kind of massive layoff would affect your pension plan and a lot of other issues for Teamsters.
Oh, absolutely. I think the impacts are far reaching. And as soon as we signed the labor agreement, Carol Tomei and many of the other chief executives of UPS were quite open about their intentions, and making statements in the press as clearly and as strongly as we hope to replace 80% of the inside work. So the things you alluded to are very, very serious. I mean, for us to lose 100,000 members, let's say, out of what at one point, at its high point, I don't believe it's there anymore, it was like a 340,000 member group. That's, I'm from Texas and my math isn't that good, but that's about a 30% reduction. And, when you alluded to the impact of this happening on our pension funds, everybody, all those folks contribute to some pension fund that ultimately benefits all Teamster members and many in different crafts. So this is there's a real funding issue here. And so again, it's something that really needs a lot of energy and a lot of think tank power to figure it out, and the political side of it. We can't be disengaged from moving politicians to action. And I do agree with you. I think we're looking at polls. We're polling the members to see where they're at in the Trump Biden contest. I think the majority of our members are still supporting Biden, but it's a very, very close poll that we're seeing. And I think I need to be frank and we need to be frank with our members that Donald Trump is no friend of labor, and the majority. I mean, I'm not going to broad stroke everybody that's a Republican, but the majority of those folks that went to that meeting have no interest in furthering workers' interests. They're not going to move legislation for them unless we make them do it. And I say, we have to make all of them do it, Democrat, Republican, regardless. But we can't be silent. We can't allow. I mean, UPS is they've made it very clear where they're going. We have to figure out a way to protect our members and in some cases retrain them, move them? How do we mitigate the impact? Do we negotiate language where they can move inside somewhere else? We should absolutely argue that if a machine goes in there, that we're going to work on the machine. Are we going to look at severance? I mean, there's people have to eat.
And of course, as long as that development of AI and robotics is in the hands of these billionaires, of these corporations, they're going to use it to increase their profit. I mean, that's what's driving them. But alongside the issue of racism, fascism, is that the Republican Party has said they're for open shop, which I know you've been fighting in Texas. And yet it seems that the union gave money, $45,000 to the Republican National Committee. They've given money to Republicans, and there is no Labor Party. There's no political alternative. But it seems that a lot of these people that are supporting Trump, including these techno billionaires, would like to dispense with democracy. They want to be in control of total control of the development of this technology for greater profits and control the world. Are you concerned about the rise of fascism in the United States and internationally? Milei in Argentina, Meloni in Italy. There's a general rise of fascism internationally.
It is concerning, and I think there's a lot to that. You look at what has happened in Turkey, which was once a big ally of ours in NATO, and how easily we can lose our liberties and transform into that sort of society. All those places you mentioned, this is what's going on, and I think it's partially tied to the fact that the information that we get now is so varied and it comes from so many different places. And again, like the AI issue, how reliable is what you're reading? How slanted is what you're reading? And so we're all really, really vulnerable to being brainwashed by, Elon Musk supporting Donald Trump. Elon Musk is trying to literally eliminate the National Labor Relations Board. Donald Trump's buddies are not pro-union. And, we may have a couple of Republican representatives and leaders that are parroting a little support for our issues like right to work. But we have to be real about what it takes legislatively with a 60 vote threshold in the Senate. And to your earlier point, Steve, the two-party system is failing us. We're going to have two choices again, both guys older than me, which is pretty damn old. Neither one of them totally at the top of their game. Let's just say that. I'm certainly one of them is the only. If we've got to make a choice between two people, that's the only choice we have, and it's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he's Putin's buddy. His history is that of a person who's crossed picket lines, who's failed to pay people, who's now convicted by he was indicted by juries across the country. So he's not this poor victim, but we're going to be victim to this man if he's reelected. And I'm not saying that we're in a better place. The two-party system is a huge problem. We need to be more proactive as working men and women. We can't accept this. The idea that we have two choices. We need to be more proactive than that.
And the issue of racism, homophobia, it seems that it's being whipped up in this country. Attacks on election laws, and a whole-scale attack on democratic rights and rights of minorities. Are you concerned about that?
Absolutely. Those. We've got a Supreme Court that is no longer a judicial body. Frankly, it's a body of men and women that are ideologues, and in many cases, particularly Alito and Thomas, they're fascists. They're supporting the move to fascism, and I think we also have to look at our other structures. Fascism doesn't just exist in the government. This autocratic behavior is going on right now in our own unions, including mine, where everything is being driven by an autocratic, power hungry individuals that don't want to. They want to control the narrative for people, and they want to take your medicine and be quiet kind of attitude. And I think that's why we're losing. People are losing. We're 6% of the workforce now in the private sector. I mean, at what point are we going to be irrelevant? Our members are looking for more than what they're getting, and our unions have been politicized, and they're just many structures of what's going on in our government.
Well, my union, for example, the CWA, I mean, the News Guild, Pacific Media Workers Guild, had a survey when Bernie Sanders was running, and he got the vote, and they endorsed Bernie Sanders when he first ran. And so they sent it out to every member. How is the survey being done in the Teamsters Union? Are they sending a letter to every member, or allowing every member to vote on who they want to support politically?
No. The term that's being used is a straw poll. They've gone to locals that are willing to conduct these polls. There are locals that don't want to get involved with it because the other big issue that we have in our union is people that are elected officials. Their number one goal is to stay elected. So they know that we've got a divided membership on these issues, and many of them are afraid to speak to those issues because they want to stay in office. They don't want to anger somebody by telling them the truth. So they're going around the country. There are a few locals that have agreed, many locals that have agreed, but some of the times it's a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. It may be.
So you're saying that if a local official says they don't want to be involved, their local is not going to be part of the survey?
There are several locals that are not doing.
So it's not a democratic survey, in other words.
It's
democratic survey would go. You'd send a letter out or electronic. Everybody can vote, and you have a vote of the entire membership. That's possible. Right. My union did it. It seems like it's feasible for a union to do that.
But I certainly believe in democracy. I used to belong to an organization that preached democracy as well, but that's another story.
Now, another issue is the whole issue of Amazon organizing. Amazon, which is a competitor to UPS, which has been undermining organized labor and has been spending millions of dollars fighting the rights of these workers to organize. They've been hiring union-busting lawyers, intimidating workers, firing workers, and there was just a recent tentative agreement to unite the Teamsters and Amazon workers at RFK 8 and in Tennessee, where there's a facility, Amazon Workers Union. The need to organize at Amazon, I think, is critical for the Teamsters and all workers. It's one of the largest workforces in the United States. How is that going to happen, and how do you see this process taking place? Because it is a critical aspect of defending the labor movement to organize unorganized workers, and Amazon is a prime example of that.
I really think that, it's an existential threat to working men and women across the globe. It's a part of the problem of automation as well. The problem in this country is corporate America really owns the government. Let's just get real about it. They fund both parties. They lobby both parties. Labor, our funds are minuscule compared to what these folks have to move issues in the government. So what we do have is the power of the people. I think I received an article from you this morning about the Minneapolis strike that was written by an author up there in Minneapolis. It sort of made us understand that all the gains we won back in the 30s were because people turned out on the street and, really, really fought the fight. We're not, you have to use every tool in your tool chest in order to fight a fight. But if you think, if we think that ponying up to people at Mar-a-Lago and giving $5,000 to Josh Hawley and the likes of J.D. Vance and those folks is going to move the needle and change those issues, then I believe you're missing it. This is a much deeper struggle than throwing money at politicians. We have to change the system, we need to rid ourselves of business unionism. We're a reflection of the people, corporations that we fight. We're just the other side of the the coin, structured in the same manner with HR departments and talking heads and consultants and PR firms and attorneys, and the rest of us have children and debt and disease, and the threat of losing everything you own because you live in a country where you don't even have health care as a promise. I don't know when we wake up, but I know we're going down the wrong road, and I know that the current structures in place aren't there to help us.
And this is the 90th anniversary of the Minneapolis Teamster strike. It's a general Teamster strike. It was a bloody strike. 2 workers were killed in that strike. They called out the National Guard. And despite the repression and the employers organizing to attack the workers, they were successful in that strike. And Hoffa said he learned from the tactics of that strike over the road organizing. How many Teamsters are aware of the Minneapolis Teamster strike and the significance of that in the development of the Teamsters Union?
I think the majority of Teamsters.
Is there education being done about the history, the real history of the Teamsters Union?
I would assume if you wanted to call the education department and ask them if you could find that, you could. If you were like some of us, many of us who actually understand. I'm married to a history teacher who's actually has a doctorate, so history is kind of a big thing around our house. But yeah, I think it should be part of your indoctrination. To you always, my wife's very quick to say history doesn't repeat itself per se, but it does lend itself to similar events occurring over time. It's certainly a compass and a map to what could happen. And back to your discussion about fascism, what went on in Germany. Adolf Hitler was elected. He was elected, democratically elected. So it doesn't take much. But the history of labor is really important. We did have a guy run for office. Was it Farrell Dobbs? Am I correct? That was
Eugene Debs.
Eugene Debs. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, he was in prison, but I wouldn't say he was a billionaire like Donald Trump.
No. But
he was
I don't know that many members know that, and apparently
American Railway Workers Union. Yeah, he was the leader of the railway workers, and
right.
He was a railroad worker.
Right.
So he was.
The rail unions have a very, very amazing history, as well as the coal miners. The labor history. Mother Jones. My goodness. I mean, there's such richness in that history, but there's sort of a constant theme in it, and it's the 2 models in the labor movement are the paternal model, which is daddy's going to take care of your business, and the organizing model, which is we're going to do it from the bottom. And the only time we've ever been successful, and the most successful leaders in our union have always been people that operate in the organizing model, and the majority of those folks were organizers. Not to diminish folks that are doing other jobs in the union, but I think the organizers grasp the idea that you got to move people to action. Change doesn't come through a vote, doesn't come through a petition. It comes through people doing stuff, taking things and making it a tangible action.
And issue of democratic rights, and there's a strike of the University of California employees. They're Teamsters who are employed at the University of California. They've used the police, the repression of the students, and called fascist and Zionists have joined together at UCLA to attack an encampment, and then the police were brought in. It seems like there's growing repression against democratic protest in this country. Well,
you think about the remarks that have been made by, particularly I'm down here in Texas where the Republican Party's lost their ever-loving mind. They're actually saying that they should arrest and go after people that are involved in Black Lives Matter protests. Now, that whole game that's being played with Black Lives Matter is straight up racism. And it offends people when you tell them that, but it is. I believe everybody has a right to protest as long as it's peaceful. If you go to stabbing police officers with flag poles and spraying bear spray on them and choking them and crushing their heads in the doors, that's not protest. And if you do that in any other, walking through a group of people with an AR-15 and opening fire on them. That's not peaceful protest. You should go to jail. You don't have the right to possess an arm and massacre people. But we don't deal with those issues. And the whole Black Lives Matter thing angers me. To attack people because of their sexual orientation or is absolutely sickening and appalling. People should be allowed, and this country was founded on principles of freedom of expression. You can be who you want to be.
And your governor has just pardoned a person who was convicted of murder and said that he went to this Black Lives Matter protest to injure, hurt somebody. What do you think about that?
Can I say it's bullshit? It's sickening. It's perverted. It's twisted, and it's an example of how we're sliding into fascism.
Now, another issue is the climate crisis. There's some people like Governor DeSantis who removed the word climate from laws that have been passed. Yet we're facing this summer a heat crisis that may kill conceivably tens of thousands of people, especially poor people who don't have air conditioning, or air conditioning may go out in this heat wave that's coming because of the very high levels of heat. Now, one of the issues in the UPS struggle was the issue of air conditioning in trucks. These Teamsters who work in these trucks, and I interviewed them, you have 130, 146 degree temperature in some of these trucks. Mm-hmm. Are you concerned about the danger to Teamsters and other workers as a result of this growing heat crisis and climate crisis in the United States and internationally?
Well, there's no doubt about it. As somebody who drove a freight truck, and when I started, we didn't have air conditioning in those trucks, and the offloading of freight out of the back of a trailer that's clearly 140 degrees at times. I understand. I mean, it's really easy to slip into heat exhaustion and into heat stroke. I have a limited medical background. I was a medic in the Army, so we saw it in the Army. When we trained, we never trained in good elements. In the military, you trained when it was cold or when it was hot. You never got the springtime trainings because that's not what they're training you for. But you can get acclimatized to things to a certain degree, but the human body's not designed to withstand that kind of stress. And unless you're really, really aware of it, you could slip into either one of those states very quickly and die. I mean, we have members die. So we finally got air conditioning in our trucks. I think it was negotiated and claimed to be a victory when the truck manufacturers no longer made the unair conditioned trucks. You couldn't buy one without an air conditioner. So they claimed victory on that one. I was just glad to get an air conditioner. But I think
well, do you think there's an emergency? I mean, it seems like, that the danger of injury and death from heat is going to grow and is growing. Florida was broiling. You had a hurricane go through Houston. I mean, there's some radical climate changes that are taking place. Do you think this is an emergency and there should be a political campaign demand that all these trucks at UPS and all trucking companies, Amazon, say that they have air conditioning in the trucks? I don't know if that's true or not, but as a matter of life and death for workers, you think it's an emergency.
There's no doubt about it. Look, I survived it in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s when I drove a truck without air conditioner. But I got your point is well taken. I just read this morning that we've had the hottest year on record since the beginning of climatology, as far as keeping records. So today here, the heat index, you can see it's bright behind me. The heat index is going to be 108 degrees. This is the first week of June. Now, Texas is hot, but there, I don't live far from the lake here. It's 50% full now. My entire life, it was always full. It always had water in it. We are, and where I live is the beginning of the West. Actually, you're moving into more the arid portion of the country, and this is, and anyone that lives in the West knows what's going on is unsustainable, and to stick your head in the sand and deny this. well, the term truly ignorant. I don't know if it's ignorant. I don't know how you can deny it.
Well, this issue of danger of heat for regular people in communities, but also workers and Teamsters, seems it could be a life and death question. The Republican Party has said that there is no climate change, that it's not a concern, climate change. Let's drill some more for oil. What do you think the union should do about it? It's not just Teamsters, other workers who work outside, laborers. I mean, there are a large number of workers who are outside, have no choice. That's part of their job.
Right.
You think there should be a national campaign in labor to protect these workers? I mean, it seems that I know in California, you only have less than 200 OSHA inspectors. I don't even know if OSHA is going out to these trucks and testing them for heat, but it seems 140 degrees is a life and death situation in an environment, work environment.
Absolutely true. I think we need to be proactive on those issues. I think, there's a lot of folks that take the stance that, let's just deal with politics that affect us, and they leave. Well, climate change affects us. I know the issue of what's going on in Gaza and Ukraine has been, largely avoided by labor because they want to stay away from the controversy. But I think, obviously this is affecting our members. We have construction members, pipeline members. We have people that are in the heat every day, all day. There's a reason we don't live as long as people that work in offices. The work environment we're in is brutal. We're exposed to things that people don't get exposed to in an office. That's why, raising the retirement age is tough. I mean, at one point I remember our road drivers in the freight industry would retire and the average life expectancy was less than a year. That doesn't make me feel good about, working a lifetime and saying, oh, I got 12 months. It's not inspiring. And, this has to be dealt with, but we seem to deal with the superficial all the time. We're not, I always think about the Eastern mindset of they're looking out centuries ahead of. And, the Western mindset is how do I make my next buck?
And lastly, I mean, they're in the middle of the election campaign, and there is a danger of fascism, another possible coup, a dictatorship in this country. It seems that there's no debate in the labor movement, and the focus is let's just get Biden elected by the AFL-CIO and the unions that are supporting Biden. You think that's going to solve the problem?
No, all we're doing right now is ensuring that, I mean, of course, the Teamsters hadn't even taken a stance. I have. I'm not going to support Donald Trump. I wouldn't. I wouldn't let him catch my dog. He's horrible. He will lead us into a very fascist state. He's going to strip us of much of the democracies, democratic structures that we have in our country. So, you have to call your shot, but the answer is not the Democrats or the Republicans. I said it earlier. We have to move towards workers having a voice, because the wealth is concentrated in what, Steve? 2 to 3% of the wealthiest people in the world own. I mean, in this country, own 80, 90% of the wealth. I'm not sure the exact number there, but it boggles the mind.
What Sean Fade said. I mean, you've got 3 families control 50% of the wealth of the United States.
Right. Right.
And I think
how many cars do you need? How many, I mean, I don't know what you buy with all that money. I mean, you get some really good wine. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the founders of this country, I think they were here. They believe in, sort of the capitalist ideal of everybody having a chance. But that's sort of a fairy tale now when you really think about, I think the generation, the younger folks in their 20s and 30s, they can't afford housing. The idea of pensions is gone. That's evaporated. Healthcare, Jesus Christ, come on. Healthcare. That should be a right. The idea that, this is what happens to people. They're, they might accumulate wealth. You might be, and then, at the end of your life, you get really sick. You have to exhaust every dime you have to stay well before you can even be taken care of. So you work a lifetime and you get sick, and no one benefits from that lifetime of work. You used to be, it was handed off. Mom and dad's house. We got that now. We're gonna go live in it. We're gonna sell it. We're gonna fix it up. Whatever we're gonna do. But that's not happening now.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking with John Palmer, International Vice President of the Teamsters Union, and he recently introduced a proposal for dealing with AI and robotics in the Teamsters Union. And this issue of the future of labor is critical, and particularly on the 90th anniversary of the Minneapolis Teamsters strike and the 90th anniversary of the San Francisco general strike, when the industrial unions were built and millions of workers became organized in the United States. So thanks for joining us on Work Week, John.
Thank you, brother.